Hi everyone, I am back for another review and I will be reviewing Raging Bull. It came out in 1980 and it's a Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese collaboration. They worked in a few films, as some of you probably know, one of them being Taxi Driver. And I have to say, I actually like this Scorsese movie. My favorite Scorsese movie was actually Taxi Driver, but I have to say this is a very close second. It documents the life of Jake LaMotta, who is a boxer, who was a New York-based boxer in the 1940s. He grew up in the Bronx, and it's a very New York film. It talks about it's a little different than Rocky, I have to say. Rocky had like the underdog element to it though, throughout the whole movie. Raging Bull did not. Raging Bull kind of portrayed Jake LaMotta, played by Robert De Niro, as a raging bull, as a maniac who is out of control, and Jake LaMotta, who was actually a real life boxer, was kind of was pretty much the same person, and he was someone uh, that was like a very poor person in the Bronx, and only he only had boxing to prove his worth in society. And Joe Pesci plays his friend Joey. Who Joe Pesci, I have to say, I first saw him in the Lethal Weapon series, uh, where he actually played like a comical character. But once I saw Raging Bull, once I saw Goodfellas, it was a whole other level of of Joe Pesci. I must add. Um, it it was a movie where similar, I have to say, to one of my previous reviews, Citizen Kane. Uh, Raging Bull had that underdog. Well, Citizen Kane is it portrays a rich person. Raging Bull is more of a poor person, and it it documents what his life is like. He's a married man who who has kids, but he's also someone that's trying to make a decent living. But he does have very significant rage issues, and the movie documents Jake LaMotta's life throughout his whole time as a boxer, and he actually beat fights Sugar Ray Robinson a few times, who was a well-known boxer of his time, and he actually wins. He and then he's actually kind of getting some publicity and whatnot as a boxer. But he is someone that always had that raging bull issues of anger and when am I gonna pay the rent? And he always had that. But once he started winning a few fights in boxing, he moves his family to Florida, but his wife is not happy with him. Who's actually played by Kathy Morardi, who actually played the role of Jake LaMotta's wife in the movie very well, and it and she wanted a divorce at the end. Once they moved to Miami, but I have to say, Martin Scorsese and De Niro, whenever they collaborate, it always involves heavy emotions, and it always involves a New York attitude. I would have to say, um, it it's a movie that involves a lot of violence, and somewhat there's elements of domestic violence. There's elements of just rage and the mindset to win is what I took from this movie. Robert De Niro actually has multiple levels of character as well. He in Midnight Run is different than Raging Bull, and different from Taxi Driver, different from Godfather Part Two. He also has very different range in terms of his roles. But obviously, many in Casino and many people often associate him as a tough guy, and in Raging Bull he does play that tough guy. He talks about he plays Jake LaMotta really well, from his time as a young man as a boxer in New York to someone who accumulated wealth a little later on, moved to Florida, and also someone that kind of lost it all at the end. He had to come back to New York once his wife left him, and he had to start up again, but this time as a stand-up comedian and as someone who runs nightclubs, was surrounded by mafia influence, which was very prominent in the early '60s. Jake LaMotta in New York nightclubs. Jake LaMotta was boxed in the '40s, '50s, and then retired in the early '60s. He um, he was someone that was a tough guy, but also knew his limitations and surrounded himself with sometimes good people, sometimes bad people, but he was just a very jealous man, and he and even Joe Pesci and him in the movie have a falling out. He thought Jake LaMotta thought Joe Pesci's character Joey cheating was having sex with Jake LaMotta's wife. um, Jake LaMotta thought his wife was cheating on him with Joey, and that led to like a huge rift. And even when as years passed, Joey never really forgave De Niro, even when he tries to apologize to him, which I think you should watch. It's actually a great film. It involves a lot. It's a very dark, gritty New York film. It talks about jealousy, rage, success, and how if you don't have your head on straight, you could lose it all. And I think Martin Scorsese did an excellent job as a director, and came out in 1980, and it's Raging Bull. And I'll see you guys at the next review.